think we're live. We're live. We're live. Hello again. Hello everybody. Sorry for the basically like an hour delay in between finishing the preamble and the history of the Videopac computer and Ed Averett and his amazing 4 year of writing all of the games for this console, one of which we're going to play in a sec. We've got the Zoom back and working. We've hopefully all the audio is all coming through okay. If anybody's joining, let me know on the chat if it's all up and running. Oops. I'm just going to switch so I can see the chat as it comes in. There we go. All right. Hopefully everything's working. Oh, it's a bit precarious, let's say. But yeah, so I guess in the second half we're going to play the game and actually see what it's all about. Yeah, one thing about Videopac games is that when they start up, they always have select game. That's the first thing that comes up, and it makes a sound. Quite pleasing. And then you can select a game that, obviously, as you saw in the previous video, there's a kind of touch keyboard, like a membrane keyboard on the front here. So if I keep getting that, nope. That's what I want. Yeah, there's this membrane keyboard, so it was really designed as a kind of a console stroke microcomputer of the time. However, it was never really useful as a computer at all. They did release a cartridge, a basic cartridge that you can, or it wasn't even basic. It was just a programming cartridge that you can use to program this machine, but it had no storage whatsoever. They never released a peripheral that allowed you to store anything. There's no output that would allow you to do that on the machine. So I don't think it's sold very well. We might have a look at that at some time in the future. But basically, when it starts up with select game, you choose the game from one of these buttons on the front, and you also use it pretty much for all of the games, all of the arcade type games anyway, to record your name on the high score. And that's what this is asking for, and it actually tells you kind of on the cartridge label. I won't take it out, but it tells you usually what options there are to press to choose a different type of game. On this particular game, though, there is only one mode. There are no multiple modes. Some of these games have loads of different modes. This one is just, this is the game, that's it. It is so refined. Ed was so sure that he'd got all of the different mechanics absolutely nailed that there is only one version of the game on the cartridge, and that's the one we're going to play. Okay, so I'm going to press, it's pretty much press any button to start it. So I'm going to do it, and this is what the game looks like. So I have a flying saucer in the middle of the screen there, which I can move around, and you will notice that around that ship is a rotating force field, and that force field protects me from these asteroids, essentially, that are flying around the screen here. So if I knock into one of these, let's knock into this one here, it was destroyed, and my shield goes down for a few seconds, or about a second, and then it returns. And you'll also notice that it returns to full strength. Oops, there's a saucer coming in. Enemy craft. That when it starts regenerating, it starts off regenerating grey, and then goes blue. Okay. You'll also notice that as I bump into these asteroids, they shatter, they break into 3 shards, shrapnel, which fly off, always at the same angles, and you will see there that they start chain reactions if they hit, oh, I just missed that one, if they hit other asteroids, which is quite cool. So, and you get credited for those destroying through via chain reaction as well. Oh dear. Okay, that was on.
So you can't actually shoot them.
I'll get to that.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, you can shoot, and if you'll notice, there's a white dot in my shield,
Yep.
and it basically changes as I move around. And so basically, as I move in any direction, it advances. And when it gets to the direction that you're actually moving in, it will stop. So let's just wait for the new game to start. So if I go right, oops. Alright, you'll see at the end of me going right that it stops and carries on. But the rest of the time it will basically rotate clockwise around my shield. And I will shoot in the direction of that. That was lucky. It will shoot in the direction of that dot. And when it does, my shield goes down. So aiming and shooting is not easy. And obviously it doesn't rotate fast enough for me to be able to quickly line someone up in the direction that I'm moving. So quite often you can sort of half move towards something and then reverse slightly for it to then, oh dear, see I had my shield down momentarily and banged into something. So yeah, so shooting's tricky, and I haven't worked out whether the tactic is to try and shoot these asteroids as much as possible, or actually to shoot them as little as possible and to only use it in certain circumstances, and to use the shields the rest of the time. So a couple of other things to say about the asteroids or the enemies. There's two types of asteroid. There are these ones that are just sort of single crosses that animate. So look like sort of pluses and X's constantly changing. They move randomly around the screen. But when they bump into each other, when two of those asteroids bump into each other, they turn into magnetic asteroids, which basically they rotate faster, like that one there, you see? They almost look like squares because they're rotating so rapidly. But they basically home in on you. And then the other enemy are these UFOs that appear on screen and just fire at you quite rapidly. So they're quite capable of taking your shields out with one hit and then killing you with a second. But they always fire diagonally. Oh dear. So that's the game. And then apart from... Ooh.
The movement of the ship looks very responsive, though.
Yeah, the joystick... These joysticks are quite peculiar. They've got quite a long travel, but they're not analog, right? They're digital joysticks. They just got through, but they've got quite a long travel.
I was going to ask you how they compare to the Atari ones.
See,
yeah,
it's a bit like having an Atari joystick without the rubber sleeve. It is it's smaller. It's a smaller handle, and it's quite stiff. The spring is actually quite a strong spring that pulls it back, and you've got this cutout. It's like, I don't know if you can see that, like star-shaped cutout in the top that makes it very very precise. Like if you want to go diagonally, then it goes into the diagonal slot and the ship goes diagonally. Like it's very very clear. So it's
the
not.
feed on the videos paused.
Oh. Okay, that's not good. All right, let me just check that a sec.
I thought you'd actually paused the game, but then
No. No.
I thought, oh, this game's got a pause function.
Yeah, that would be good, but no, I have not. So let's see if I can get it back. Is it
Yep,
back?
there you go.
Okay.
Yep.
Great, okay. Well, nice, at least we recovered. Hello. Hi. I know. I've had loads of technical problems. How you doing? You okay? Do you want to have a go at this?
I just realised how expensive Horizon 4 is.
Yes, Forza Horizon 4 is quite expensive.
What?
How much is it?
It's like 55 pounds, I think.
Wow, you have to wash a lot of cars.
I need to watch 4 cars.
And valet.
Hmm?
Okay, let's carry on with this game.
And what's a valet?
Valet, clean the insides.
Oh, yeah. Polish.
Okay. So, right, given all of that, so the other thing to mention is at the bottom we've got the scores. So you've got the highest score so far on the left with a little arrow showing who that score was by, and at any time I can overwrite that. So I can put my name in. Now, by all accounts, kids love to put rude words in there. So maybe we could do that. If I manage to beat my high score, maybe we could put Willy in or something. If I manage it. You get 1 point for destroying each of those, the standard asteroids. You get 3 points for destroying, let's try it, there we go, for destroying a magnetic asteroid. You can't get hit by your own shrapnel, by the way, you'll notice, which is thankful. Thought I had it then. I think you get 9 for destroying a UFO. So
Do you have to shoot the UFO though?
no,
can't just
you can crash into it. Yeah, anything that touches your shield. The trouble is if you're that close and it hits you with a shot first,
Yeah.
or for some reason you are shooting at it and you, in the process of shooting at it, disable your shield briefly. It will hit you on the next shot. So I got it then. So the trick with the UFOs obviously is to not address it on the diagonal.
Yeah.
Its shot is one of the standard characters.
Oh, right.
So it can only shoot diagonally. So therefore, if I did you see that? It actually got my shield, but I managed to escape. Oh no! Okay, so 78. There we go. Okay. So obviously, as with most games of this era, it's brutally hard. But it's not frustrating, I think that's a really good combination. It's interesting. It's a bit like Asteroids, but obviously the brief was make a game like, oh there we go, so you've got me on the diagonal. The brief was make a game like Asteroids, and Ed Averett was like, well, how can I do that given the limitations of this machine? But I don't think he ever saw it as the limitations of the machine. I think he really, really loved this machine, and he really, really understood the processor and its nuances, and so knew how to make games that are performant, that are fast. I mean, quite impressive how the shield works. Obviously, the shield is custom graphics. I don't know how. I have to maybe check this, and maybe Derek, it's worth having a look in the Wikipedia page about it, because it's got the hardware spec.
Oh, what was that?
It just glitched a little bit. Did you see that?
Okay, yeah.
What was I going to say? Yeah, so I think I had 12 single color sprites that you could code, and oh no, sorry, 4. I think it had 4 single color sprites, and then an additional 12 sprites that had to be made up from the standard characters that were built into the ROM. So a lot of these games have the same object in, essentially. There's a standard set of objects, and a bit like the 2600, there's a standard set of sound effects as well. So a lot of the games sound the same. I've never worked out whether that's because of what's built into the console itself, or whether that's just because sometimes they get through the shield. Interesting. Or whether it's just because so many of the games are by Ed Averett, and those are the sound routines that he used. I also don't know whether the convention of having the scores and the high score entry at the bottom were hardwired into the ROM, or whether that was just a standard set of routines that either Ed introduced or were introduced even before he started doing this, because I think someone else, somebody made either all or several of the first 6 games for the platform. So I think they released 6 games and then decided to can the whole project, and it was Ed Averett who kept it alive, writing games for the next 4 years on his own.
Do you know how successful the machine was?
It's worth looking it up. It wasn't very successful, but it sold enough for it to, for the games to be profitable, especially when you're only paying one person to produce them. Like everything that they made from selling games afterwards was basically gravy on top of what they made from selling the console. I'm pretty sure they made a loss, but then Intel invested in it. I don't know what deal Intel gave Philips for the chip, but Intel were desperate to find new markets for their chips. Obviously, this is before they did all the big deals with IBM in the 80s. So they must have given them a good deal on it, but then Philips had just bought Signetics as well, and weren't that bothered about keeping Intel going. And so, which is why, Ed was an Intel guy, he wasn't a Philips guy. And Intel was still keen to keep it running, so somehow, despite basically announcing they were shutting it down and actively shutting everything else down apart from just him and this salesperson, but they still had enough money to get the games published and into shops. And as he says in interviews, every game that he made sold out. But then if you'd bought one of these consoles, if you were a fan of Magnavox and you bought one of these consoles, you would buy every game that came out for it, because there weren't that many games.
Yeah. Are the other games as good as this one?
Several of the other games are as good as this one. Yeah, this isn't. I mean, I don't think this is necessarily the best game that he ever made. It's certainly not the worst game either. But yeah, all of the games are very quirky and very different. Just the graphics and the sound effects. Oh God, I'm terrible at it though, aren't I? It's probably just absolutely frustrating and awful for anybody watching. I'm trying to play it just by, not using firing. But Maybe I should just be more patient and let the whole game field develop and come towards me. And concentrate on playing rather than talking. Whoop. Whoa, that was interesting. I was very lucky. Yeah, so they've all got this feel about them that's just different. Yeah, so sometimes if you're just a little bit too keen to knock one of them off because you've got another one coming in and you're worried that your shield isn't going to regenerate fast enough, you're a bit too greedy and you move towards the asteroid and it hasn't finished exploding and you walk into it and that's it. Yeah, it's a dangerous game, isn't it, actually? Oh, oof, interesting. I love the chain reactions. They're my favourite thing.
It's such an interesting mechanic, having the asteroids explode in a predictable way so that you can wait till they're lined up and stuff.
Yes.
I really like it.
Yeah,
It adds so much more than just shooting everything.
it really does. Yeah, yeah. It's a very different type of game to Asteroids, where it's point and shoot. It's all about attack. Whereas this is like Aikido. This is like the arcade equivalent of, you're converting your enemy's aggressive energy
Against
themselves. Yeah. And even the firing, because the firing is the way it is, you can't aggressively attack things. You have to move towards them, but usually you're firing as you're backing away. It's like you assume a defensive stance, pretty much always. And even like when the asteroids appear, you have to assume a defensive alignment towards them because they shoot on a diagonal. You can't just take the line of least resistance towards them. You have to...
They're nasty.
They are nasty. And so, yeah, you're exposed when you're at the edges of the screen as well. Hey, you okay? Are you messaging me? What's up? Oh, I see, okay. Hang on a sec. Let me just finish this game. This could be it.
It's frozen again.
Oh, okay, right. So, this is frustrating. I guess, in a sense, it's what you get for using all original hardware and running it through this AV stack. Derek, are you still on the call? I haven't heard from you.
Yes, I gave up with the first computer I was using and switched to another one. It seems to be a bit more stable now. I lost so much of what you were of the first part. I'm going to have to listen to it all again later.
That's a shame. Oh no, I don't think this is recovering now.
Well, it was a good stream. We might just leave it here.
Oh, come on, Flynn.
I mean, if you can't get the video back.
Yeah, well, if I can't get the video back, there's no point streaming anymore, it's true.
Yeah.
But I'm still going to try. Okay. Just authorizing an app purchase. Yeah, it looks like it's gone. Looks like it's not coming back, unfortunately. Oh, how frustrating is this? Obviously, this would be much easier to play emulated, but I don't think that's
No, absolutely
insane.
not. What's the fun in that?
No, exactly. But obviously, if you can't see it at all, what's the fun in that either? All right. Well, I guess everybody got a sense of the game. We never managed to beat the high score of 78, which is a bit abysmal. It always mocks you with having a 4-digit high score.
So is it just
So
one life
it's
and
one life. Oh yeah,
and it
that's
just keeps coming. It just keeps coming. There's no waves or anything. It's
nope.
just yeah.
Yeah, it's really basic in that sense. And I mean that's another feature of Ed Averett's games is that there are no lives on this console. The vast majority of these games have no lives or have one life and that's it, game over. And it seems like a real limitation. It seems like, that makes the console less somehow. No, this isn't coming back. I think we've lost it. I don't know what's happened, but there's no.
Is it that? So what is it that's lost it?
I think it's Streamlabs. That Streamlabs video input is not accepting anything. So even the webcams and everything else, Streamlabs is just I can't see anything there. So yeah, I can't even change it to show my webcam video or anything else, even though I know that obviously works because I can see myself in the other video capture object. I've got no idea how to kind of reinitialize it, if you like. Can deactivate it and try and reactivate it, but as I say, it doesn't seem to want to come back. But anyway, rather than talk about all of that, let's just try activating it. Yeah, I'd really like to show more of these games and compare them. I mean, so a lot of the games only have one life, and a very kind of simple. That there's not lots of different levels and things like that. There's no platform games really per se, apart from maybe Monkey Shines, which is like imagine like a monkey cage from side on. But yeah, the a lot of them have lots of different variants of the game that you could initialize, and several of them, like Monkey Shines and some others, have got level editors built into them, so you can actually change the play field of the game and try different configurations out. And then there's the whole. So on the one hand, there's the one player thing is actually. You get the impression that this whole console was designed. I'm going to quit trying to do that because it's just not working at all. So yeah, you get the impression that this whole console was designed around around families, around multiple players. It was designed for multiplayer action. Because if you only have one life, then changing controllers is really, really fast. Like the other person gets to go much more quickly, much more regularly. The controllers are hardwired in. You're expected to have two controllers. It's not like other devices where you may only have one joystick. There's always two joysticks. It's always set up for two players. The games are very easy and straightforward. The current person who's top writes their name at the bottom. It's really, there's some aspects of this that really that connect it to what the original Magnavox Odyssey was, as a completely family-oriented console. It's really interesting that it was the first ever games console was designed around families and how families play. It wasn't designed for single people to play. So yeah, I think I find that really interesting. And then on top of these arcade style games, there's the Master Strategy series, which are board games with a video game element, and they really pushed this for a while. They were really experimenting with creating family experiences where multiple people play around a board with tokens and make decisions, and then those decisions are mediated through a video game. So you have to actually go and play them. Actually, do you know what? One thing I'm just going to try quickly now that I've just got this this view open here. I am going to see whether, as this feed works to show that, whether I can change the properties to show the screen and have one last game. So what if I change that to the game capture? Okay, so it's completely the wrong size. Can you see that?
Yeah, I can see that.
I have a feeling that I need to...
Ooh, that's looking good.
Yeah, it's getting there. It's a question of positioning it right. Oh, I think it's actually probably a bit too small now, isn't it? Let's go there. Oh, yeah. I don't know, about something like that.
Ooh.
I'm going to have to completely fix all of this later, but there we go. All right. Okay. Back on screen though, aren't we?
Yes.
I think I'm going to have to get a new laptop. As much as I don't want to spend all the cash to do this, but anyway. Dang. Right. Or maybe I just need to rebuild this laptop, actually. Seeing as it was used for so many other family things, and make it dedicated to this. But yeah, let's try this. So it would be really good as well to try and see if we could stream one of the board games, the Master Series board games, because they're fascinating. And actually, we've played. I've got all of them. They released 3 of them, 3 beautifully produced board games as part of the. Frustrating. And I have the 3 that they released, but we've only ever played one of them. But again, that one, the Quest for the Rings, is surprisingly deep. There's some game mechanics in there that are just that sort of elevate it from being just a kind of an average game, like the ones that we've seen on the Hanimex, into something that actually stands out. That is a cut above. So again, just slightly too close. 50 that time. Yeah, obviously I want to do some streams about the Signetics family once we've got all the composite video stuff sorted out. But maybe we'll do some more. Maybe we'll alternate and do some more Videopac ones and show some of the more interesting games for it. And maybe we'll have.
Yeah, I'd certainly be interested in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be interested in seeing some more of their games and maybe doing a bit of research on the hardware behind this, see what the video chip is like.
Yeah, there is a scanned training course. So Intel or someone, oh god, I was lucky there. Someone produced a training course for programming this. It may even have been Ed Averett himself who wrote it. But it's like it's sort of handwritten notes. It's basically A4 sheets of handwritten notes about how to code this console that have then been like carbon copied and then at some point were scanned, and you can find it online, and I've got a PDF of it, and it's just fascinating. I haven't been through it and like tried to do it, and I think there is a community of people that are doing homebrew for this. You can get a multi-cart for this with a bunch of demos and homebrew on it. So people have started coding for it again, or have coded for it since. But it is a unique machine, and they did several versions of it as well. So they did a plus version, G7000 Plus, which is basically the same as this one, except it had an extra frame buffer for the screen, so you could basically put an image behind the game. So there's plus versions. Some of the cartridges have a plus on them, which indicates that they have an extra just static image in the background. You'll notice there's no star field or anything. It's like all of these games have just got a black background. I don't think there's any on anything other than a black background. So yeah, they tried to remedy that on the G7000 Plus. And then there's also some others, very kind of rare and odd later ones that have an integrated screen as well. I don't think they sold very many of those whatsoever. So I really don't know the later history too much.
So when did this machine first come out?
That's a good question. I think it was 78, or maybe before.
Okay.
I think maybe have a look in the Wikipedia page actually, because I think it came out in the States before it came out in Europe. It seems to have been very much a Magnavox US driven project, while obviously Philips were pursuing their 2650 project in Europe with Interton and Radafin. So it 63 had a chance there.
It certainly looks like a powerful little machine for that vintage. I mean, I would say that it's certainly on a par, if not better, than the Atari 2600.
Yeah, again, it's one of those platforms where you just think, well, you know, its potential was never fully tapped because there just wasn't a community of rock star game developers. You know,
I don't think there was such a thing back then.
Well, there was, because they all went and founded Activision.
True.
They wanted to be rock stars. I mean, that was the whole point, wasn't it? They weren't getting any credit or any of the royalties, but and so they all left Atari to form Activision, and then got sued by Atari for copying their games, and won, and became the first third-party games studio in the world. But of course that never happened here. I mean, I guess it did. There were games by iMagic. So iMagic ported a few of their games for the 2600 to this platform. Maybe not particularly successfully, I don't think. So games like Atlantis, I think. 106. There we go.
We just lost the video as well.
Oh, you're kidding. All right. Well, I think that's it then, isn't it? I've just written balls at the bottom, so I have to imagine that.
Very apt.
Yes. All right. I think we'll call it quits. Yeah, I don't know what to do. If we're gonna run this, I'm gonna need to figure out why it keeps cutting out, and I suspect it's just there's not enough of a signal coming through, and it just loses it. I mean, it may be that the laptop I'm running all of this on is starting to get really stretched, so maybe a rebuild of the laptop will help. But I think there's something else going on here. I don't like it. So sorry about that. Sorry it was a bit painful, but we got to show some things at least. You got to get an idea of what this game is about. I never felt that I got bored of playing this game. I felt like I was engaged in it and just.
It's not boring to watch either.
Is it good? Because I just feel like I've not played very well. It's been it's been a very bad effort. I'm watching it now, and I'm just literally just static in the middle of the screen, and I'm up to 47 points already. So you're 50 now. And literally, that's just my shield is now just racking points up, and I'm not even touching the controller, and it's showing me up. Like 56 would have been a really good score. It's still going. You can't see this. Oh, I've just been 60. I just got shot by a UFO. So there you go. That's it. All right, guys.
That sounds a bit like Shooting Gallery on the Voltmax. I was playing that on the emulator the other day, and I found the best score I could get was to just leave the joystick alone and keep hitting the fire button.
It's appalling, isn't it? It really just doesn't do much for your self-esteem. These games. But yeah, it's a really fun game. I'll try and figure out how we can show it better in future, and make it more consistent. But yeah, I've got the multi-cart for it, so I've got all the games that came out for this machine to look at. I've also got quite a few original cartridges as well, so we can have a look at the packaging maybe another time. But yeah, I'm going to leave it there. Hope that was enjoyable. Those of you that have watched this.
Nice one, Chris.
Yeah, drop a comment into the chat if you've got any questions about it, or if you do watch this on YouTube later, and just let us know whether you enjoyed it or what we could do differently, or what you'd like to see, or anything like that. Would be really cool. So cheers, guys. Yeah. Cheers, Lee. Cheers, Derek, for joining. I'll speak to you both soon. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
Yep.
Cheers.
See you, everyone. Bye.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Chris.
Cheers.